Greetings, Golden Passports. Welcome back to Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I will once again be Patrick Smith, coming to you live, well, not live, live for us, it's live for us, from Anarchapulco. This time I have like a returning topic, but with a different person that I'm excited to talk to. Last time on Anarchast, probably about a year ago, maybe a little bit more, we talked to Mike about ECI Development, and he's helping people, I guess, purchase citizenship or land or, well,
yes.
Tell us what the hell you, this is not Mike, this is Joe.
Yes.
Hi, Joe, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks,
Patrick. You can tell I've done this before, right? It's just so jumbled.
No, I can imagine you've got a lot going on, a lot of cool, interesting opportunities and people out there, so I'm sure it's hard to keep it all straight. But yeah, so ECI Development's the name of our company, as Patrick said. We do a lot of different things, really specializing in Central America. So anything from purchasing property to second residencies, usually those go hand in hand, so people can not only get a property to live, or if they're doing it more on the investment side, they can also get a second residency.
The second residency, that's what our last conversation with Mike was about.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, sometimes it's just moving overseas to live there full time to escape, wherever they're coming from. But for a lot of people, it's just, having that peace of mind, kind of like some kind of insurance. You get that, put it in your back pocket, and if you need it, you have it. But occasionally people come to us and they say, hey, I need to get somewhere, and sometimes it's a little too late. But so you got to have a little bit forward thinking with that. But yeah, we do a lot with that to help people.
So like if the world freaks out and locks down, ostensibly, you would be allowed into any country where you already had like a pre-existing residency.
Yeah, and I'll give you a good little story on that. So 2 years ago, my parents are working on the Golden Visa in Portugal, and that is to get Portuguese residency, which can ultimately lead to citizenship. Residency is kind of like the stepping stone. You start there, and then from there you can usually get a citizenship. But we were taking a trip during New Year's to go to the Azores, which is the little islands off the coast of Portugal mainland. And that was at the time where Trump said that U.S. citizens couldn't go to Europe and Europeans couldn't go to the U.S.
Yeah.
And so we said, well, we're Portuguese residents. So we get to Boston, we go to board our plane, and you could hear that, they had people actually physically checking for that. And we had, our letter stating this, and then also with our residency cards. And we were, I think we're 9 people altogether, and I think we were 9 of the 13 people on the plane. So it was quite an experience. And but yeah, I mean, you never know.
It worked.
Yeah, exactly. And you never know what's, the policies that are going to be put forth in the future. But it's good to have these as, to prepare yourself as best as possible. And so in that case, it was just vacation for us, but it was nice that we didn't have to alter things because of, what was going on. So that was an instance that's,
so
really awesome to have.
They're less likely to mess with you if you have something pre-established.
Exactly.
So like after the lockdowns, it's probably a lot harder in that moment to get where you need to go.
Yeah, I mean, as long as you're not needing it at that exact moment, if you can work on it beforehand. I mean, now that, we're a couple of years past the start of all the shutdowns and whatnot. I mean, you can start getting things again, but I think for a lot of people in that moment, it was a little too late. But now we're back, and people can start getting them again before whatever nonsense comes up in the future. So
nice. Okay, so if you want the full deep dive, I really went all the way in with Mike last time we talked. Go look for that interview. I thought it was really good. I learned a lot. It was cool. I think he even gave me like a code to give people to maybe get them a discount or something like that. I think it was Anarchast or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if anyone is interested in any of that kind of stuff, just let us know. We have an email, info@ecidevelopment.com. Just mention Anarchast, and we'd be happy to send you information, answer any questions you have, whether it's getting on a phone call, Zoom, whatever it may be. But, we're here to help people in that regard.
Cool. So it's been a while since I talked to Mike, though, and you said that you had a couple new things that you had going on, and I wanted to hear about them. So why don't we go into that?
Absolutely. Well, going back to the Golden Visa that I just mentioned, that's something.
That sounds so cool.
Well, Golden Visa is their type of investment residency. So typically there's multiple stages or types of residencies, whether it be retirement or some other sorts, whether you have ancestral residency, citizenship. But Golden Visa is their investment version. And so we, ECI Development, we just acquired a project there, and we will be developing it, but also offering it for Golden Visa. So people can make an investment into the project, and then from there we can help them get the residency, which is awesome because Portugal, while people might not prefer Portugal as is, You can also then get citizenship, which then can lead you to live anywhere within the EU. So I
Oh.
think that'll be a really awesome thing for some people, really open up a gateway to other countries. And then another thing to note is, while it's maybe a little bit more than typical Central American residencies and citizenships, you have the fact that it's one of the most economical ones into Europe. So, you've seen places like Austria, a couple $1 million investment, Switzerland, I think it's almost $10 million, because a lot of these countries don't want people. They if they're going to accept them, they want people that have a lot of resources. So Portugal's a nice gateway to get into it, but then once you're in, you can be having access all to the EU, which is really awesome.
Interesting. I'm just trying to form a corporation in Switzerland right now, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
They're very selective, and they only
Yes.
want who they want, so it's difficult.
They
but
checked our background. They want a bunch of money and an account for a long time. It's crazy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that this Portugal one,
Mhm.
can we know how much, what's the process generally cost?
Well, so the typical investment into Portugal is 500,000 euros, but because we're on the islands and because it's an older property, that gets discounted. So I think the amount for that's going to be around 350 to 400,000 euros. So definitely more than your traditional, St. Kitts, St. Lucia, Dominica citizenship by investment. But
So that's like the premium.
But you're getting access
ECI
to countries.
plan.
You're getting access to countries that are very interesting.
Do you
so
get
to
the whole
speak. But
EU with
yeah,
that?
EU.
So
Well,
you, so you can live anywhere pretty much in the EU.
exactly. So get Portuguese citizenship, and then you can go set up shop anywhere within the EU. So as long as the EU exists, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So ostensibly, and obviously no one can guarantee anything because of how magic spells work.
That's the hard
but
thing, right?
If the whole place locks down again, they would have to let you in because you had a residency.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Anywhere in the EU.
Exactly.
Ostensibly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
No,
All
that's the awesome thing. And like I said, instead of having to shell out millions or tens of millions of dollars, you've got this way to get in, and now you're part of the EU and can go anywhere. So whether your dream has been to live in one of these other countries, you can do it just by getting your Portuguese citizenship. So
Here's an inverse question.
Sure.
Is anybody trying to get into the U.S. in this way?
Well, we don't have anything in the U.S., but I know the U.S. does have a visa program for people, and I think it starts around $900,000.
Okay.
And quickly goes up from there. So,
Okay.
yeah, they do exist, but a lot of people aren't necessarily enthusiastic about coming to the U.S., but the people that are, can if they can shell it out. So it just depends, but yeah, it's expensive.
Interesting. Okay, and there was one other program that you were about to start or had started.
The EMF one, no, that's actually a new thing that we are going to be doing. We've had a lot of requests as developers for many different projects throughout our properties. In Nicaragua, for example, we have 2,500 acres, and
Wow.
there's a lot to develop. We've been doing it for 20 years, and we've probably developed about 10%. And we had a group come to us, and they're big on EMF and limiting their exposure. So met with Mike, and we're going to...
For those that don't know the acronym, what is EMF?
Electromagnetic field, I believe. And so, things like Wi-Fi, cellular, all that can contribute to...
Like this.
Yeah, this setup exactly. So got to watch your exposure, Patrick. But,
I am exposed.
But if for a lot of people, there can be very sensitive people to it, and so like I said, we've got a ton of land, and so I brought down an EMF reader about 2 weeks ago when I was in Nicaragua, and we walked around the property, did all that to see where is best. You can't exactly eliminate it all, but you can get pretty low doses, which I think for a lot of people is a very interesting topic, and so we'll be doing that as well. That's located in Nicaragua. We're about an hour and a half from downtown Managua, so that'll be a really cool opportunity as well. But like I said, we're not done there. We'll keep developing opportunities. So
Man, that'd be hard too, because the EMF levels would change by time of day, by weather, by temperature. Because I know all this from learning ham. Like, we can talk to different parts of the world based on the weather and
Right.
temperature and time of day and cloud cover and all kinds of interesting stuff.
Yeah.
It must be a tough life trying to find a place to live without it in this age.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think people have always wanted to be so interconnected with one another. I mean, I was just this morning talking to my friend in Pakistan, and I mean, how else can you do that unless you're on your little cell phone and have your Wi-Fi or cellular? So, I feel like there's a little bit of a trade-off there, but, if you're not spending your whole day and whole night, you can kind of limit that. Where here, if you're out in your normal day job, you don't really have the ability to limit it. But if you start with a place to live that's limited, then you can kind of control how much exposure you have. But you're right. I mean, it's an ever-changing world, and it's hard to keep it. But that's the beauty of Nicaragua. We own about 3.5 miles of beachfront, and there's not really any neighbors around us. So, as long as we set it up in the right position, it'll
Where do you live?
stay limited. Well, I have both my Belizean citizenship and then also my U.S. citizenship. So I spend a lot of time in both Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where I'm from, and then Belize. I'm there probably about a week and a half every month. So,
oh, wow.
So I know a lot of time
That's
there.
a lot of flying.
And it's English speaking, which is nice. So I
Yeah.
don't have to try to learn Spanish or anything like that. But my family's also working on the Portuguese residency. So, once that happens, I'm not a huge fan of Europe, but I do like Portugal, and I like specifically the islands because you get kind of the best of both worlds there. So,
Right on. What do you prefer?
in terms of living,
your
or
preference? Yeah. In terms of living, yeah.
well, I'm very biased. I'm Belize all the way. For me, it's this little known country. It's English speaking, easy to get to if you're in North America. The dollar is pegged 2-to-1 to the U.S., so it's not like here in Mexico where you're constantly like, what's the peso today? 17? Oh, I'm getting 15.
It's
when
pegged 2-to-1.
Yeah.
They pegged it at
Exactly.
less than the U.S.
Exactly.
Who chose that? That's weird.
Well, I don't know, but you know what? At least from a conversion standpoint, it makes it
okay.
easy. You're not having to think on the fly doing some math. But like I said, I've kind of grown up spending a lot of time there. My father being one of the co-founders, that's where one of our headquarters are. So we spend a lot of time there just for the business side of things. But, super laid back lifestyle, golf carts, beautiful crystal clear blue water, reef. I got my diver's license when I was 10 years old. So spent a lot of time there. And so it just kind of for me is it's a biased answer, but I like it a lot from that perspective.
and that's something that you can go through ECI to get residency
Yeah.
for. What is that package?
Well, so there's a
around?
couple different ones. There's the fast, expensive way, I like to say, and that's a $250,000 investment. That gets you residency. You don't have to spend time there. So, if you're planning on putting some capital and some resources into the country, you can do it pretty easily. If you're going to say, hey, I'm just going to up and move to Belize, you can do that without any capital injection. You do have to spend the first year there, pretty much the whole year in Belize. I think it's 14 days you can spend outside the country, so you pretty much have to commit to spending the whole year in Belize, but then from there you'll become a resident as well.
So you just have to move there, basically.
Yeah,
for a
exactly.
year.
But for some people, they're like, oh, well, I
Yeah.
can't. I've got a business. I've got family, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
So for some people that doesn't work, but for other people, that's what I would recommend. And then the last option is if you're a retiree and you can qualify for the retiree visa, which essentially just shows that you have enough retirement income to not be solely dependent on, the government and needing all those kind of handouts. So that's a great option, but it doesn't lead to citizenship.
You mean
is
they
the
don't
one
want
thing to
open
note.
borders and welfare?
Surprisingly not.
Oh my goodness!
Amazing, isn't it?
How has ECI been in the past couple of years? Is it growing?
Yeah, so growing, we definitely experienced some growing pains. Mike talked about it yesterday in his presentation, kind of giving an overview. We went from building a couple homes here, a couple homes there, to getting about 70 orders of tiny homes. Jeff did one mention of it, and we got a huge influx, which is awesome from the business side, but we did experience some major delays. Like I said, we had a small internal construction team, and all of a sudden we're like, hey, we need to build 75 of these, and everyone's like, holy smokes. And so, bringing on subcontractors, all that, we experienced some delays. And I think as of right now, the last tiny home will be delivered in the summer. And so we want to do a grand opening, late summer, early fall. So
Can you tell me more about that? Where are the tiny homes going?
Sure. So they're in Nicaragua.
Okay.
They're the community is called Ava, and it's Eco Village Asachio. So it's right on Asachio Beach, which is a beautiful sandy beach with really, really small waves. So if you're ever looking to surf or learn to surf, you can do that. And then we also have another great surf break for people, and that's called the Meat Grinder. So that's for the more experienced folks. That's at the other end of our property, and Asachio is at the opposite end of the property. But yeah, we have 100 tiny homes going in, and there will be a community orchard for folks so that they can grow, whatever they see fit. So, but yeah, those are tiny homes. A lot of people will say, well, I'm not necessarily looking for a tiny home. I have, shoes, and they take up a whole closet. So, but that's why we develop other communities. So we'll have single family homes, home sites for people to build custom homes, and then condominiums as well. But, if people name it, we'll build it. So but that's in Nicaragua specifically.
Have you built other buildings besides tiny homes for people?
Yeah. So right now we have 2 condominium buildings there. We have about 70 single-family homes that are up, and then we have the 70 or so tiny homes under construction, and then we have another community called Bella, which is kind of a middle size home. It's not as small as a tiny home, but it's not as large as I think it's somewhere in like the 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. So if someone's looking for larger than tiny home but doesn't want to have to take care of a multi-1,000 square foot home, they have that option as well. So we try to hit the whole spectrum because not everyone's looking for the same thing. Not everyone's looking to be in the same country. So we try to hit as many countries as we can, and we'll just continue to expand.
Joe, that was fun.
Yeah. Patrick, thank you so
the
much.
updates,
I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
Last word, you want to send people anywhere?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you're interested in hearing some stuff that we have going on, we also do a lot of great generic resources, so not sales documents at all, things like 15 must-ask questions when buying property overseas. These are the things that Mike, our CEO, has learned over the last 26 years, and the mistakes that, we try to limit other people from making. So even if it's not something we're doing, please, send us an email at info@ecidevelopment.com, mention Patrick and the Anarchast, and we'd be happy to send you some of these generic resources just to get you started, because we want you guys to be very informed, because it's the Wild West sometimes out in Central America, and we don't want people making mistakes, because it can be costly. So
oh man, all right,
but, yeah, that's where I'll leave it.
Do a whole show on that.
Yeah,
all right,
exactly.
Guys.
All right.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Patrick. Appreciate it.
Peace, love, and anarchy.